Good morning, everyone. Hopefully, everyone's having a good morning. This is Brenda from Stamplicity, and welcome to Fun Friday. Yes, it's live. It's not a videotape or recording. I am here live. I thought, you know what? We didn't do What's Up Wednesday this week, so I thought we should definitely do a live Fun Friday. All right, so today we are going to talk about graduation cards because that is kind of just around the corner. I know we've had a lot of people inquiring about graduation products. So I thought I would do a simple grad card. Actually, I'm going to do two with the new Spellbinders Classic Mouse Graduation Sentiments Better Press and foil plate that have the coordinating dies. All right, so this is one complete set. You're going to get the tassel, you're going to get some great sayings, you're going to get the dies for that, and you're also going to get number or layering number dies with it as well. So it's a really jam-packed uh, die set or press plate set. And it's gonna, like, you're gonna be able to use it year after year because you got all the numbers, all right, which is awesome. So I'm gonna do one with better press, and I'm also gonna do one with foiling, all right. But I really want to show you how you can really kind of customize this for your, school colors, all right, for the grad. So I'm gonna do in my school colors from high school, which was Port Colborne High School. And we were the Blue Bears. All right. So our colors were blue and white. So that's what I'm going to do for my samples. But I want to show you a quick way on how you can use colored cardstock with your better press and your foiling and get really great results. All right. So I've already picked three colors. All right. So these are the colors of, like I said, the Port Colborne High School. And that's what I'm going to start with. So these are A2 panels. And I'm going to trim these down, and then we're going to layer them on a piece of paper. Now, you're probably saying, oh my goodness, you're going to layer cardstock on top of cardstock and you're going to press with it. Isn't that too thick? Won't that like not give you the best impression? All right, so this is where the trick comes in. Instead of layering it on another piece of cardstock, I'm going to layer it on a piece of copy paper. All right, so this is just my piece of thin paper from my printer. I'm going to show you how to do this so that you can kind of get that color blocking effect in the background without adding the bulk. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to grab my paper trimmer, and I'm going to start with my printer paper, and I'm just going to cut this into quarters. All right, so we're just going to cut these into A2 panels, which are 5.5 by 4.25. So I'm just going to trim this. And I will need two panels because I'm doing two cards. So I'm just going to trim this one. This one I'm not going to worry about. All right, so we have two. And again, these are just printer paper, all right? So we have those. Then I'm going to take my colors now. All right, so I have three panels, and I want to kind of do a color blocking. So I want each of the colors, a strip of it in the background. So I'm going to cut each of these are A2 panels, into threes, which is 1 7/8. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. All right, so those are all my strips for my color blocking. And let's start putting our base panel together now. Okay, so I'm going to start with my printer paper here, and we are going to do our colors now. So I think I'm going to, I don't know. This is going to be the hard part. What colors do I want? I'm going to do kind of the dark, the light, and then the lightest at the bottom. I think that's what I'm going to do. I might change it up on the other one. Okay, so we're just going to glue these on. All right, now don't worry if you don't get this all straight, because I would trim this down and then mat it onto my card. So but I'm going to do my best to line it up to make things straight. So we're going to butt it up to the left hand side and to the top of this one. All right, then we're going to take our next color, and we're just going to butt it up to that one. And by using that printer paper, we're not adding that extra bulk. All right, so this is Spellbinders. It's already 100-pound paper. All right, so we don't want to add any more bulk to this for the foiling or the better press. So this is just a great way. That paper is going to hold everything in place, but it's not going to create that bulk. All right, so there is my first panel. All right, I'm going to put my second panel together as well, just so that that is ready. And I'm going to mix it up this time. I am going to do the light color or the light blue on the top. Then the white and the dark blue at the bottom. So we always say, you know, for better press, it's always best to use better press paper. Yeah, you're going to get the best results, but that's not, you're not limited to just using better press paper. All right. So you can use regular cardstock. You've seen me use it before. So know that you can do it. You will always get the best results with better press paper, but sometimes you want color. And this is one of those times, you know, graduation cards with the school colors, it only makes sense. All right, so there is my second panel. All right, so again, I am using the school colors from the high school here, the public high school here. So there are my panels. All right, so let's talk about the Better Press plate set. All right, so like I said, this is the Classic Mouse Graduation Sentiments Better Press and Foil Plate and Die set. All right, so you're gonna get all the press and foil plates here with a tassel and then some sayings, and then you're gonna get the dies that coordinate it with all the numbers and their layered numbers, which is pretty exciting. So I know number one question everyone asks, why is it called Classic Mouse? Well, it came out with a collection from Spellbinders that had Mickey Mouse, and they just grouped this, and the Mickey Mouse was a graduation one, so they grouped this. There is nothing Mickey Mouse about this, nothing about Classic Mouse or anything. It's just a great grad set, so don't get thrown off by the name of this. This is a grad item that you are going to use over and over again, especially if you have, you know, grandkids or kids, you know, that are still in high school. You know that there's graduations coming up with either, you know, public school, kindergarten, you know, grade 8, high school, college, university. All right, so this is going to go on because it's a very simple but effective set. All right, so okay, so let's get start pressing here. All right, so I've got my better press system here, and I have my sticky grid here. That is lovely. I'm going to take the release sheet off of it, and I'm going to go ahead and grab one of my panels here, and we're going to just stick that down. So this is an A2 panel, so I'm just going to use the corner guides to line this up and stick that down. All right, so that is down. Now on here, we're going to grab our tassel. So remember when you are designing this, all right? So if I want the tassel on the left-hand side, you got to do the opposite when you design it onto your better press, all right? Because remember, your paper will be upside down. So if you want the tassel on the left-hand side, you're going to be placing it on the right-hand side of your press plate or your press base, all right? So I'm going to just line that up because I want it on the left-hand side. I want room for my sentiment on the right-hand side. So I'm going to center it on here, but I will be trimming my paper down, so I will be trimming a little bit of the top off. So I'm not too concerned about that. I just want to make sure I have that kind of tassel kind of in there, at the bottom of the tassel in there. So I'm okay if that's gone over the A2 outline there. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do this. Now I'm going to do this in black ink. All right. Now you could have some fun with metallic inks with this, but I'm just going with basic black. So I'm just going to really ink this up. And I probably should be using my smaller pad because that larger one is making quite the mess. That larger pad is really better for background cover plates. I'm going to grab my little one. All right, so let's go ahead. I love the fine details on the tassel. Like it really looks like a great realistic tassel. Okay. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and press this. So I'm gonna just put my lid on. My die cut machine is just to the right of me, so I'm just gonna pass that through. And da, 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 da. All right, look, we have that tassel on there. All right, it is beautiful. All right, look how it's just awesome. So you can press on regular cardstock. You're still gonna get, I don't know if the camera can pick that up. You're still gonna get that pressed in look. It's not maybe as pronounced as it would be with better press paper, but now we've got school colors with the color blocking. All right, so we have that one on there. All right, so that's great. I'm going to put that to the side. My sticky grid came off with my panel here, so I'm just going to take that off and reapply it here. Okay, so we have to do the sentiments as well. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So let me go ahead. I'm going to do all of them, I think. Congrats, grad. You did it. Class of and bravo. I'm going to do them all just because I have them. What does this one say? Proud of you. All right. So these all have matching dies with it. So you're going to be able to cut these out. So I'm going to just place them all on there. And then I'm just going to grab a piece of paper. Now, I could use Better Press paper with this, but I'm going to use the same white cardstock that I used on my panel. So everything's kind of matchy match. So I'm going to place that on there. Now, because these are sentiments. And sometimes I tell you this, and sometimes I forget to say this, but sometimes when they have sentiments like this that are really kind of detailed, finer details, finer print, underneath your magnetic sheet here on your Better Press are shims, all right? And normally we use all three shims in there, but I'm going to remove one of these shims, all right? It's just going to help with those sentiments, that they don't get that I always call it like the kind of inky webbing that you can sometimes get. So I just removed one of those shims. We're going to go ahead and ink these up now and press them. And I put my ink away. Why did I do that? Silly me. All right. So we're just going to press this in black. So, and we're going to die cut these out. So I'm not too concerned if these are not straight. I just want to make sure I get good inking on them. And I love the choices of sentiments on this. Lots to choose from. All right, I think I am good. I have black ink everywhere. Me and black ink are not getting along. I know a couple of you are wondering what I did to my thumb. It's not a bruise, no nothing. I had to change the ink on her price gun, which is not something we do very often. And it's always like, how do we do it again? So anyways, I was doing that, and of course I was doing it wrong, and I got ink like everywhere. And of course, on my thumb, it like went underneath my my nail bed and all that. And like I've got this, like, it looks bruised, but it's just ink, and I've scrubbed, and it just will not come off. All right, so I just have to wait for it to my nail to grow out. But anyways, so black ink has not been my friend. So you can see by removing that one shim, especially for sentiments, you get a really beautiful press. All right, even like this one where it's so fine. Look at that. All right, and you don't get that kind of weird webbing that you get sometimes with black ink with all the shims. And I know a lot of you, if you use your Better Press, you know what I mean. All right, so we've got some really great sayings there. All right, so I'm going to just clean these up, I'll clean them a little bit better afterwards, get them back on the magnet sheet. Okay, so before I do any die cutting now, I'm just going to go ahead and do my foiling now. All right, so we're going to just put this to the side, and we're going to come back to this, and I want to do foiling only because I have my foil machine on and it keeps on shutting off on me because I've had it on for so long and I'm not using it. And so it keeps on wanting to shut off on me. So, okay, so for this one here, let me grab my foiling machine. All right, so glimmer. I love the fact that you can use these press plates for glimmering as well. And for those that have a glimmer machine, every time I pull mine out, and I don't pull it out as often as I should, all right? But every time I do pull it out, I love the effect of it, right? And I just want to glimmer everything. So I do suggest and encourage you that if you have a glimmer machine, pull it out and just start playing with it because it is so amazing the results you get from it. So we're going to do the kind of the same design with this. We're going to use our tassel again. And I know I still have ink on there, but that's not going to affect the foiling. All right. So again, when you're positioning this, you want to make sure you're doing the opposite of where you want that tassel. So I'm going to be putting this on the right hand side again, because then it will be on my left hand side on my paper. All right. So you'll notice that I have little kind of crosses or X marks on my grid here. That is just me. That actually tells me where my A2 panel can sit perfectly. I just use a pen, all right, and to put it on, it doesn't affect my foiling, it doesn't go transfer onto my papers and all that, but those are just alignment guides for me, and I just find it helpful now for when I want to put my A2 panel, I just line that up right to those little crosses, all right? So just a little tip there. All right, so I have my tassel down. And we're going to do this in gold. And I have a matte gold here. Now, I do need to trim this down just ever so slightly. We don't need that whole panel. So I'm just going to trim this. I hate cutting foil with scissors. Usually I use my little foil trimmer, but I packed that away. All right, so I'm going to lay that on there. Do I have that the right way? Yes. I always forget now. All right, that's down. And then I'm going to now take my panel and I'm going to line it up to my little grids. I'm going to press the timer button and then find my little lids here. And we'll just wait for that to stop flashing. Once that stops flashing, that tells me it's ready to go through my machine. All right, so, and we're going to do the same thing with our sentiments as well. So I'm just going to grab another piece of cardstock, have that ready to go. All right, this is always the worst part. It's the waiting game, right? Doo doo. Sorry, I keep on looking out the window because there's a bunch of dogs that just walked by. I thought they were loose, but they weren't. All right. Doo doo doo. Once that green light stops flashing and remains green, then I'm going to pull this out and put it through my die cut machine. All right, there we go. All right, so no other plates are needed, just the plates that are with the glimmer machine. All right, so I'm just going to run that through. And then I'm going to place this back in there. And now we can take this all off. All right, I'm going to let that cool off for a second. I'm going to take this off and I'm going to get my sentiments on here now. Let's get that started before we do the aha moment. And again, I'm going to be die cutting these out. So I'm going to just space. Oh, I shouldn't. You know what? I'm going to space them a little closer together because of my foiling or my foil. All right, so we'll do that. And let's get this started. All right, so that's ready to go. Let's do the aha moment now. All right, so let's pull that off. All right, so I did get some overfoiling. All right, but I'm going to show you a little trick. But look how awesome that is. Oh, All right, so you can see I got a little bit of overfoiling on the bottom there. All right, this is where a white eraser, a good white eraser, comes into play. So I am going to just start erasing where I have overfoiling, and it should remove most of it. All right, sometimes you're not so lucky, but I will use this white eraser and just go over. And you want to make sure it is a white eraser that you specifically just use for foiling. Don't use it for one that may have pencil marks on there, because the ink from the pencil marks will transfer over. You don't want that. Okay, so I have removed most of that over foiling. Now I still have a few spots up there. It's very minimal. Oops, you know what? This is all ready to go. I'm going to run this through. Doo-doo. Okay, that is it for foiling. So I can turn this off, take this off. I'm going to just put that to the side, let this cool down, get out of my way. All right, back to there. All right, so I still have a little bit of kind of overfoiling there. The other thing that's very useful is a sand eraser. All right, so you have to be careful, but that will remove all that extra foiling as well. So white eraser is always your first. You want to do that. And then anything else that maybe did not come off with the white eraser, then very carefully, you want to use your sand eraser. And you have to be very careful, because you only want to do the areas where it's overfoiled, not your actual foiled patterns. And I have cleaned that up now, no overfoiling. And look at that gold tassel on there. Isn't that fun? All right, let's take a look at our sentiments. And again, we're going to die cut these ones. All right, so I have a lot of overfoiling on here. So I'm just going to use my eraser. Now, the white eraser, you can go right over top of the whole. All right, but then your sand eraser, you just want to get the overfoiled pieces. All right, so. All right, so I'm not going to spend my time doing that on camera, but you can see that I've cleaned it up a lovely. All right, so just using that sand eraser will clean up the overfoiling that you might get. All right, so. And I know why I have overfoiling, and it's just because of the thickness of my paper. That's all. Normally I use hammer mill paper, but this is the 110 pounds. So I know that that is why it has overfoiled a little bit. So no worries. I can clean that up. All right. So no worries. Okay. Let's go back to our better press, and let's go ahead and trim this one out. All right. So let's get the sayings here. And I want my little best ever tape. There it is. I'm going to die cut all of these out. So I'm just going to use the best ever tape just to hold them in place so they don't move when I die cut. A little piece of tape is all you need. One more. Now, there is also the die for the tassel itself, but because we just did it right on our card panel, we don't need that die. All right, so. Okay. The other thing that I did ahead of time is I trimmed or die cut 2026 out in the layers. All right, so we have the shadow as well as the number. I did it in white as a shadow and then black as the overlay, and I glued them together already. All right, so I'm gonna grab my tweezers and I'm gonna lay this out. So this is the Better Press one. So we have 2026. All right, and then let's do class of. So we'll take that one. And then you did it. Oh, let's do three sayings on here. Congrats, grad, class of 2026, and then you did it. All right, so we're gonna keep each of the sentiments in each of the color strips there. So I'm gonna pop these up. Now, before I do this, I do want to trim my panel because I'm gonna mat this onto a white card, and I always like that matting. So I am going to grab my paper trimmer here, and we're going to trim this down to 4 by 5 1/4. All right, so 4 and 5 1/4. So I'm just going to trim a little bit off the right hand edge. And this is why I said when you're doing the strips, if they're a little off, it's okay because we were going to trim this. All right, so there is that. And I want to trim a little bit off the top and bottom so that everything is kind of almost the same. All right, so I'm going to do 1/8 of an inch. Oopsie, 1/8 of an inch, not 3/8 of an inch. All right, so this way our two bottom strips are the same height. All right, so 1/8 of an inch. Oh, I think I did that a little too much. Now I have to trim a little bit more. Oh, Brenda. Okay, I made this a little bit smaller, but that's okay. All right, there's our panel. All right, so we're gonna do congrats grad, and let's pop these up. My squeaky cart. And I'm just going to center them top to bottom in each of those kind of color strips there, right? So we'll do that one first. Congrats, grad. And then you did it. All right, and then class of. Okay, I'm going to start with my middle numbers first because then I can get my spacing kind of. All right, so 20, 26. So anyone that makes cards and sells their cards, this is a great one. Like find, what your local school colors are. You will sell these like hotcakes, like seriously, so all right, so there is that. I will mat this now probably on, because I cut it a little bit short, on a small little black mat and then on a white card. But there we go, there is our Better Press. All right, so there's that one. All right, let's go to our little foiled one now. All right, so I'm going to grab this one here. Do we want to cut this one down? No, I think yeah, I'll cut this one down just a little bit, only because I see that we have a little bit of white edge on the top and bottom. So let's see if I can get my measurements proper this time. 1/8 of an inch from the top and 1/8 of an inch from the bottom. And then we'll do 1/4 inch here. So this will be 4 by 5 1/4 now. All right, I love the gold on there. That's a pop, nice pop against that blue. Okay, so this one here, I did trim out the the little grad cap. It's like a little charm. So I'm going to actually kind of put it along there. And let's pop that up. So a little charm on the tassel. Okay, and let's go ahead and die cut one of these out. I won't do class up because I didn't do the numbers this time. So let's do the So Proud of You. All right, so I'll just cut the one out and I will clean it up. Okay, so, oh, I didn't, oh, that didn't matter. Okay, so not so bad with the overfoiling. Looks like most of it got die cut out, so I don't have to clean it up. So let's pop that up. I might put the congrats grad on there too, just because, or maybe the Bravo. Let's do the Bravo because we haven't used that yet. So I'm going to put the sentiments on the seams of where our color blocking is. All right. So there is a So Proud, and let's do the Bravo really quick. And again, any of the overfoiling, I will clean up after I die cut because sometimes it gets die cut out. So yeah, see, oh, my overfoiling did not get die cut out. It's on the reverse, which is awesome. So, all right, so let's go ahead and pop this one up. All right, and let's do Bravo. And then to finish this card up, I think this actually needs a few little charms, not charms, gems, and that one will be done. Now we'll mount this on probably a white, maybe a blue background. All right, so there is the tassel foiled with the sentiments foiled, and then we also have the Better Press one with the color blocking in school colors, which I think is pretty awesome. All right, so that's it for Fun Friday. A little bit of color blocking techniques to match your school colors for these grad cards. And that is set is just so awesome. I really, really love it. All right, so that's it for me, everyone. And we will see you next time for Fun Friday. Have yourself a wonderful day. Bye.